So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Tippy webinar series. I am Lindsay Drilling, Assistant Director of Alumni Engagement at the Tippy College of Business. The Tippy webinar series is an initiative of the Alumni Engagement Department. Our goal is to bring the knowledge of our faculty and staff to you wherever you may be in the world. Today, we are thrilled to have Michele Williams, Associate Professor of Management and Entrepreneurship at the Henry B. Tippy College of Business, sharing insights on workplace negotiation. In her presentation, when no is better than yes. Negotiate for what you want while maintaining important relationships and staying sane. Before we start, we have got a lot to cover today, and we'll do our best to answer your questions at the end. Feel free to email Michele with any questions we do not have time to answer. Also remember that our virtual presentations, including today's, will be on the college's YouTube page with closed captions a few days after the live webinar. Your thoughts are important to us, so please stay until the end for a quick survey after the Q&A session. Your feedback helps us enhance our virtual programs. Now, I'd like to quickly introduce Michele Williams. Dr. Michele Williams is an associate professor at the Henry B. Tippy College of Business, and she is the Henry B. Tippy Research Fellow in Entrepreneurship. She has taught negotiations to executives, startups, MBAs, and undergraduates at leading schools of management for over 10 years. Dr. Williams speaks at academic and professional conferences and has produced a unique course offering on women in leadership, negotiation, and entrepreneurship. She's also the co-author of the 4 Capabilities Leadership Assessment, an online 360-degree assessment used by organizations to enhance the leadership potential of managers. So let's now welcome our speaker, Michele. Go ahead.
Thank you, Lindsay. I'm so happy to be here. Lindsay, can I just make sure that you can see my slides before we get in? Okay, wonderful. So I am excited to be here, not only because it's Women's History Month, but also because it's right in the beginning, right before International Women's Day. So when I talk about when no is better than yes, this is not just for women. This is for all people who take a relational approach to work. So what do I want you to bring out from today? So today we're going to have 3 objectives. One is the challenge of saying no. Why is it hard to say no to all those requests that keep coming in? 2, tactics to broaden your approach to saying no. I call it the Nice Negotiators Toolkit. If you have a better name, put it in the chat. I am still working on the best name for this because I think of this as negotiation for nice people. Perfect for the Midwest. And 3, strategies for using no wisely, because you want to make sure that it really optimizes your ability to reach their goal. The second thing I would like is for everyone on this webinar today, and if you're listening to the replay, for you too, welcome to the replay, to walk away with one new thing you can do today or this week. But given the topic of our webinar, one thing you can do or one thing you can stop doing today or this week. So why am I here? What brings me to this topic? So I have, I like to say 10 years of experience, but it's really 15 years of experience teaching negotiation, doing leadership consulting. I teach the inclusive leadership class here in the MBA program at Tippy. And I do research on social categorization and stereotypes. So I started being interested in negotiation and how this affects women when I had a data set, and I found that all of the clients of a group of high-level consultants, they were principals and partners, all the clients thought that the women trusted them more than they thought that the male consultants. I thought, that's interesting. Let's delve into this and let's see what dynamics that creates. My educational and research experience started at Johns Hopkins University, so I still work with the College of Nursing here on women innovation. I have a strong interest in healthcare. I got my PhD, my master's at Teachers College Columbia, my PhD at Ross School of Business, Michigan, and then I've taught at MIT Sloan School and Cornell University before arriving at what I call the right Big Ten. So here at Tippy, and I've been here for over 7 years and am just loving it. One of the things I'm really excited about is helping innovative women solve problems. So with colleagues at the College of Nursing, we've just developed a measure for looking at innovation in nursing between major healthcare centers and academic colleges of nursing and colleges of medicine. So very excited about that. And there are all types of women-owned businesses here at Tippy. So what is the challenge? Why are we all here today? There are 176 of you here on this webinar. Why is saying no so challenging? And I would argue that there's two things. One, nice guys finish last. So this is for men and women, that in the Midwest and in a lot of cultures, saying yes is expected, and saying yes and maintaining relationships is really important to a lot of people. The second point is a book by Linda Babcock, Women Don't Ask. Women often don't initiate negotiations. I think they do more and more today, and more as that information is getting out. But a lot of times they're concerned that they'll get backlash for asking. And when we're talking about saying no, often these are requests that people frame as being good for you. Oh, this would be a great opportunity for you. I want you to be on this committee. Why don't you organize this event? And you're kind of torn between figuring out, is this really an opportunity, or is this more work that I'm not going to really get rewarded for? And there is something that has really come into the purview of managers and organizations in the last 10 or so years called non-promotable tasks. So this is a task that matters to your organization, but it will not help you advance your career, right? So these are things like taking notes in a meeting, organizing things that are like office housework, cleaning up the break room, being on a low visibility committee, helping other people complete their tasks, right? Organizations need you to do that. They need someone to help the people who need help, but it's not often rewarded. It's not on your performance review. Organizing work tasks for a group. So I remember talking to an engineer, and they had scrums for the whole team, and she would every week organize them so it was easier for the engineers to work together. And she attended one of my webinars on when no is better than yes. And then she went on vacation, and she came back and she just stopped doing it. And people were like, wow, this is so messy. Why isn't anyone doing this? What happened? And she learned that not only um, was it not appreciated, but nobody actually knew who had been doing this. So all this time she had been doing something that was really helpful for her team, really good for the organization, and no one even paid enough attention to know who was doing that. And so you don't want to be saying, if you're saying yes to things that are helpful for the organization, part of negotiation is framing that for your manager, letting people know, having that be part of your performance evaluation so that you know that if it's important to the organization, that is part of what you're rewarded for. Okay. If you want more on non-promotable tasks, there's an HBR article, and you get 2 free a month if you sign up. The HBR article is called, "Are You Taking On Too Much? Too Many Non-Promotable Tasks." Okay, so what happens when we say yes? And I would say that we end up on the yes hamster wheel. So what does that look like? We say yes, and we end up overwhelmed. We resent that what we're doing, or we regret that we said yes to it. So I can't see you raise your hand, but raise your hand if you have said yes to something and you regret it later, or you resent that you're the person stuck doing that. You're working on the weekend, you're doing a low visibility committee, etc. The problem with overwhelm, resentment, and regret is not only that those tasks take up time and are interrupting your career progression and the things that you are being rewarded for, but they can lead to exhaustion, burnout, and illness. So the more you're saying yes and the more overwhelmed you are, this is a problem for your organization, right? You can be exhausted, you can be burned out, and there's so many people who end up in the hospital with stress-related and autoimmune illnesses from taking on so much. When you get to the point where you're exhausted, you're burnt out, you have illness, you say no because you have to. You physically can't keep taking on all the things that you're taking on. And so that should be it, the end, right? You were saying yes, now you say no. But what often happens is you feel guilty saying no, even though you have to. You have the fear of missing out. Am I ever going to get this opportunity again if I've said no to it now? And sometimes you even feel uh, like a less confident performer because you're not able to do everything. And the one thing I think that we forget when we get caught up in this hamster wheel is that guilt and that FOMO, it pushes us as soon as we're ready, as soon as we're physically able to start saying yes again. So then we go back through the overwhelm, resentment, regret, back to, kind of this no because we have to, and then feeling bad and starting to say yes again. So this is not sustainable. So I'd like to take a moment and we're going to do a poll and just think about what fears come up when you want to say no to something, but maybe you don't, or you really want to say no. Are you concerned about being disliked? And Lindsay's going to put a poll up for you. You can vote right on Zoom. Do you feel being disliked or appearing too aggressive? Are you worried about being unfair? Are you worried about dealing with another person's negative emotion, feeling guilt, or are you afraid of missing out? So click on the quiz. You can click any of these answers, and then we'll show the results in just a moment. One of the things that's really interesting about this quiz, and why I do it every time I give a presentation on this, is because depending on the audience, different things may be primary. When I gave this talk to a group of medical residents, the biggest thing was feeling guilty. When I gave it to a set of HR executives, the biggest thing for them was the fear of missing out on other opportunities. So let's see what our results are here. Lindsay, can you share the results? Okay, so we have feeling guilty wins out. Being disliked and FOMO are FOMO and dealing with other people's negative feelings. Those are all around 20%. So there's, that feeling guilty yourself, like you should be able to take on and do everything, and how other people are going to respond to you in the being disliked, and then that fear of missing out. So let me talk a little bit about these different concerns. We did the poll, managing these fears. So one, if we are concerned about other people's feelings or about them being angry or disliking you, prepare strategies to stay calm. So one thing to remember is being disliked is often temporary, right? They just think about how many times you've had a conflict, maybe with a family member or a coworker, and that in that moment you didn't like them very much, right? But the next day you talked it through, you were fine. I think when we are considering saying no, sometimes we think that people are going to dislike us forever and hold that against us forever, and so we don't stand up for what our interests are and what we really need to be focusing on in that moment. The second thing is other people's emotions should not drive your success. Remember that sometimes other people's emotions are a negotiation strategy, right? Sometimes they're trying to make you feel guilty, right? When you say no to, staying late on the weekend, they say to you, oh, I thought you were a team player, right? Just little things that make you realize that guilt is something they're using against you. It's not, they're using it as a strategy. Also, other people's reaction are something they need to deal with, right? The last one is just keeping yourself calm. You can work through what would be the best way to say no if you're more calm. So I recommend box breathing. This is something that the Navy SEALs do. So it is very effective. And box breathing is thinking about just a square box, and you breathe in for 4, you hold for 4, you breathe out for 4, and you hold out for 4. And if you can, I always say, just excuse yourself, go to the restroom. Um, you can even probably do box breathing while the other person's in the room. They won't know that you're doing that. But it calms down your nervous system, and you're able to think more clearly and respond in a way that's genuinely reflects what you want to do. The second part, when you you're concerned about being unfair or people disliking you, remember fairness is in the eye of the beholder. You have to prepare your own standards of fairness and kind of know your goals. So, for instance, a teammate comes up to you and says, "Oh, we're all working this weekend to make sure we finish this project." The rule of fairness may be we all pitch in equally. If one person has to give up their weekend, everyone has to give up their weekend. That's a perfectly reasonable rule of fairness. But another rule of fairness might be our contribution to the project. And it may be that you have stayed in at lunch and stayed late every day this week so that you could have your weekend free, while the other people on your team have been taking long lunches and they have no problem with staying on the weekend. So if you stay on the weekend after you've already put in all this extra work during the week, it would be an unfair level of contribution to the project. And that's a different rule of fairness. And when you take someone else's rule of fairness, you often end up doing something that is imbalanced. So kind of step back and say, wait a minute, right? If you point out that, oh, I have done my work on this project. I've been in every lunch hour and stayed an hour late at the end of every day. So those rule of fairness are really important. Um, the third one is just pause. Give yourself time to be creative, right? It may be that you can think of another way to solve that person's problem. So someone asks you to moderate a panel, and you could do it. You would be excellent at it, but you also have an assistant or someone's new in your office and they've never had the opportunity to moderate a panel. And by suggesting them, not only do you have your time to focus on what's important to you, you're giving them an opportunity to stand out, to be in front of people, to learn a new skill. So it's not, so you can have a creative solution to their problem. You don't always have to be the one to solve it. And then what we're going to be talking about today is Nice Negotiators Toolkit. So what are ways to say no, and what are the types of negotiation considerations you need to have when people make a request? Okay, so first thing I want to let you know is that there is a free workbook that looks at the first part of this, the positive. Oh, no, sorry. Before we do this, we are doing a quiz. This is a poll, and this is going to be a word cloud. And it's what are things you would like to say no to? So every group of people has different things they would like to say no to. There are 3 ways to get into this poll. You can scan the QR code, do it on your phone. You can text the word negotiate to 37607. That will work. Or you can go to the website pollev.com/negotiate. And we're going to put that link in the chat so you can just click on the link if that's your preferred way to do it. It's going to ask you to register, but below that, it will say skip for now. Just skip for now. You don't need to register. This is just for us to get information about what are some of the things that we would like to say no to. Oops. So let me know if you need to go back to get that information. Let's see, this is not. This is not going live, so I'm going to go. I'm going to stop the presentation for a moment. So you should if you're having trouble getting in, just wait one moment. Go in. Reactivate that. Okay. So I see your answers coming in. And I'm going to share that screen. So everyone should now be able to see the word cloud that you are creating. Okay, so number one, the things that are bigger are the things that you would most like to say no to. So huge are committees and meetings. We have, oh my goodness, projects, training, working on weekends, housework. So yeah, there are things that in your personal life that you need to say no to also. We have emails, writing letters of reference, projects, all types of things that you would like to say no to. And so these strategies that we're going to be talking about are things that might help you balance some of these things. So menial tasks, we have a lot of things that we would like to say no to. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing that and we will go back to our slides. Let's see where our slides are. Sorry for the little pause here. So Lindsay, just jump on if you're not able to see the slides. Okay, so I am showing that we are looking at the art of saying no and yes right now. So I hope everybody is seeing that screen, getting ahead with confidence and kindness. Okay. So we want to say no to a lot of things. That word cloud was full. But often when we're thinking we want to say no to something, we feel alone. We feel like everyone else can handle everything that comes out at them. Everyone else is saying yes to everything. Everyone expects us to say yes. And so saying no can be very isolating. But I'd like to say that there is really a way to say no that can keep you in relationship to other people, that can help you find creative ways to help other people without always sacrificing your own time and your own goals. So this is not something that's just theoretical for me. I remember one morning I was up at about 5 a.m. and my daughter had food allergies. She was very young at the time, and they were having a Christmas party and they were having donuts on a string. So I don't know if you know this activity. You have donuts, you put them on a string and the kids try to bite them while they're swinging in the air. But she is allergic to wheat, so she couldn't have the donuts. So I was up making donut-shaped Rice Krispie treats so she could be part of this holiday party after having been on a panel the night before and having to teach later in that day. And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, there's got to be a way to manage this. And that's really when I started to think about this. And then there's another experience that both I had, and one of the people I was in one of my workshops, she was talking about, she went for a performance evaluation and she had missed one of her metrics, but she had done all of this extra work that the boss had asked. She had been on panels, she'd done speaking for her corporation, and when they were going in her performance review, the manager said, well, you shouldn't have been focusing on that. These are your metrics. This is what you should have been focusing on. And even though all those things that she was doing were getting verbal rewards, every time she did that, everybody was saying, oh, thank you, this is so great. It was not moving her forward in her career. I also remember a moment when I was talking with a more senior executive where I was working, and they were saying, "Oh my gosh, you've done all these things that are aligned with the strategic direction of the organization, this and that," and then when I asked, then I asked, well, what is it, that's going to get me to the next promotion, the next level of promotion? And they looked at me and they said, oh, all those things, none of them matter. And it hit me like a ton of bricks that all these things I was being rewarded for just didn't matter in terms of promotion. They were non-promotable tasks. And so that's one thing that really got me thinking. I teach negotiation. How can we use this to really figure out what are these things that we should be doing when we get all of these requests? And so here's the QR code for the free resource. This is the positive no mindset. We're going to go over it a little today. We're going to talk about it, but the workbook lists out the components of this, and it has exercises for you to go through and talk about something that you've said yes to, and what are some ways that could have worked out differently. There's also the last page. This is a fillable PDF, so you can type right in it. The last page has notes that you take as you're going through. That should be in the chat now. There should be a link in the chat if you don't prefer to use the QR code. And you can download that at any time. Okay, let me move to the next thing. Okay, so the first thing is reframing no, right? From being selfish, which we often thought it is, we're taught it was as a child, to being something that can create value for yourself and others. I call it a myth buster. Saying no can be kind. It can actually help your organization and other people in your life. So let's think about this. A positive no mindset is thinking about all this value that can be created when you say no, right? When you say no, you can provide others with an opportunity. So you can recommend other people who would be able to showcase their skills or learn a new skill or broaden their network or become more self-reliant. This is the more self-reliant. This is something that really struck me. I was talking with a nurse manager, and she said, I had one nurse who never could finish her paperwork on time. And she was fabulous in everything she did, but her paperwork was behind. And this was in a psychiatric facility. And so the nurse manager stepped in and on Fridays would help her with her paperwork. This person was doing so well that she got promoted to the next level. The next level had more paperwork, and the person but a different nurse manager, and the person just floundered and ended up getting fired. And the first nurse manager realized that if I hadn't said yes all those times she needed help, I could have helped her become more self-reliant, and this negative outcome would not have happened. I've also seen a situation where a team member was asking for help, and the other team members were pitching in. And then this is from another webinar I did. The person walked by the team member who asked for help, walked by that team member's office one day and realized that they were working on their side hustle. So they were at their computer doing their own business while everyone else in the team had been pitching in to help them out. So sometimes when you are saying yes, you are not really doing someone else a favor. The other piece of the positive no mindset is you may be creating value for yourself. You may be creating space to have self-care. You may be able to have lunch with a friend, maintain your relationships, exercise, any of the things that are really important for your personal well-being. Those are valuable too, and we have to remember that. Now, sometimes you just have to say no. Sometimes you're asked to do something that is so ridiculous that you're like, no, I cannot do that. I cannot add that to my plate. But saying no doesn't have to mean you abandon the person. It may mean that you suggest an alternative. That when you think about someone asking you to do a favor, you're just the first person that popped to mind. And you're the first person to pop to mind because usually you're the go-to person. You can always solve their problem. And there is pride in being the go-to person, but the go-to person also gets overwhelmed. So it may be you, when they ask you, can you be on this panel? Can you do this activity? Instead of saying yes, you say, wow, that's a great cause. Let's have lunch and discuss it. And over that discussion, you may realize that there's other ways for them to get their project done. There's other resources available to them. And that problem solving is really what they need. Their first answer that comes to mind is, oh, you could do it. And yes, you could do it. But the more important thing is that they get their problem solved. Okay, here are some examples of kind but firm no's. And you can Google kind ways to say no. Millions of things will come, lots of different articles will come up. Look through them and find your personalized way of saying no. What often happens is when we're asked to do something, we kind of become anxious and we flub our words and we're like, no, well, I have to do, and you're trying to make up something that you have to do as an excuse. But you could have those in your pocket, right? You could have I know how I'm going to say no. If you have to carry 3x5 cards and how you're going to say no, that's fine. Take a pause, go to the bathroom, read your answer, come back and tell them. So here's a couple of ways. Thank you for thinking of me for this opportunity. I really wish I was in a position to take advantage of this because your organization and mission sound terrific. However, I've recently decided to focus on insert your dream. I'm going to write a book. I'm spending more time coaching my kids' softball games, etc. Unfortunately, I will not be able to take on this opportunity and reach this goal, right? You have your own goals, and keeping them in mind help you know what to say yes and what to say no to. Here's another one. What a great idea to look at a promotional partner for your upcoming product launch. Unfortunately, I don't think my company will be a fit. We have a policy that we can only promote our member services. I'm sure that there are other communities, however, that would jump at this opportunity, right? And you might even be able to name some of those opportunities. These are some of the ones, some additional ones I've collected. I have a document called the Saying No Vault, and I think everyone should have their own Saying No Vault. And I've collected ways of saying no that resonate with me and people in my community. So one, I'd love to join you, but I'm feeling a little overwhelmed with work right now, right? So you can't do something in the community. How about you try it on your own first, then I can help you, right? People always often ask you to do help with something before they've even tried it. That's part of helping someone be more resilient. I'm sorry, but the timing right now isn't good. Can you keep me in mind for next time, right? And that deals with the FOMO, that you're saying no now, but this is something you really would like to do in the future. I do that often with speaking. I love to speak. I love to give this talk, right? But people often will ask me at a time that doesn't work, and I will say, I have openings in October or next fall. Is that something that would work for you? The trick is don't put something off. Keep me in mind for next time. If you are screaming in your head, no, I would never do this. I would rather have my arm ripped off, right? Like don't don't create that situation where the person comes back and you have to say no again. If this is something that's just not right for you, no is no. It's a complete sentence. Pick your personalized way of saying no so that they know that this is not right for you. Last one, that sounds like fun, but I have a lot going on at home right now. If you have kids, you may have a lot of a lot of weeks where there's a lot going on at home right now between different sports games and drama, teenage drama, all those different kinds of things that may be going on for you. Okay. So I already gave you the free resources, so I'm going to skip over this. And then the third part is when to say no, right? So there's some things that are very clear to say no to, but other things you need to negotiate. And it's the negotiators know that I talk about. So what you're doing first is you're pausing, you're saying, oh, let's talk about this over lunch. That sounds interesting. Let's make a meeting on Tuesday to talk more about this. Or you come back to them with more questions so that you can figure out, is this something you can fit into your schedule? Is it something that can fit in a different way? So I can give you an example. I was speaking at a large event. It was a keynote, and I had no childcare for that weekend. And so it was something that I really wanted to do, but I was going to have to say no because I didn't have childcare. And this is a while ago when my children were younger. And I said to the organizer, I said, this is my situation. This event is at a hotel. Can you get me a room for both my kids so that they can be there, they can order room service, they can be safe while I come downstairs and do my presentation and I can check on them? And the organizer said, of course, right? This was a small additional fee to what they were asking me to do. But often we just say yes or no. And I think that's kind of the trap that we get into. We say, yes, we're overwhelmed, we're trying to figure it out, or we say no, and we don't ask more questions. So let me talk a little bit more about the negotiator's no. It's designed to give yourself the time and space to decide if this request is something you want to do and under what conditions you might be able to do it. So that's the negotiation piece. And when I say the word negotiation, people are always like, oh, that's aggressive. That's too much, because these are everyday situations and they're often with friends or close colleagues. Negotiation simply means joint problem solving, that rather than saying yes or no, you're going to ask more questions, figure out, is there a way that we could do this that would be a win-win for both of us? So that's really what this idea is about. So I'm going to talk about bring your A game to these everyday negotiations, these things that happen all the time. So there are 4 parts to the A game. 1 is aspire, 2 is analyze, 3 is ask, and 4 is assert. So let me take a moment and talk about each of these. Okay, so aspire means you decide what you really want and aim high. Aiming high doesn't mean you're greedy, but that you're self-confident. And research shows that high aspirations are consistently linked to better outcomes, right? So if you never ask for what you would like, you're not going to get it. So it might be that someone asks you to lead a task force. And this is a task force that would really help your career, but it's just way too much work. There's no way you could balance your other metrics with this task force. There might be a discussion where you decide, can I get administrative help? Can I co-lead the task force with someone else? So there's ways so you can aspire to what, I want to do this with this kind of help. This is something that I really want to do, but I can't do it in the way it's presented to me. People often will add a new task to your job requirement, but they won't necessarily think to give you the support you need to be successful. And I've seen that time and time again, where women were promoted into a new job. There was actually no job description yet, so there's no metrics. And they really weren't asked. They had to themselves negotiate and say, okay, let's have some key metrics here. Let's see what are the resources I would need to actually accomplish this task. And so rather than saying no to this opportunity, it might be a yes under different situations. So what do you aspire to? And then you're going to analyze, do your homework, gather information, figure out what are the other ways you could do it? What are the other things you need to be able to do this? Or who are the other people who could do this equal or better than you? And it does require some letting go, right? Because you don't want to feel some kind of way when someone else is doing that task that you had been asked to do first, right? You've got to know, and that's part of the aspirations. You've got to know why you're releasing this task. There's something else that you want to work on, or a family time that you need to have. There's some other priority in your life. And that's why you're creating this win-win for the other person with letting them do the task. The third thing is ask. The more questions you ask about a task, the more you will know, is that something that you want to say yes or no to? People often ask us something that seems really a small lift. Would you moderate this panel? It's a 45-minute panel on such and such a night. And you think to yourself, yeah, I have 45 minutes on that night. And you say yes, right? But then the person comes back in the next email after you've said yes and said, okay, well, we're going to have 3 meetings to come up with the questions to moderate the panel. And then there's going to be a dinner after the panel, right? So that's turned from 45 minutes into 5 or 6 hours. And if you had known it was 5 or 6 hours, that may be something you're willing to do for this, or it may be that you could do a ton of other more important things if you knew you were going to have to commit 5 or 6 hours. So that asking more questions, and one of the most important ones is, can you help me understand why? If that's a polite question, why me? Why now? Why have you asked me to do it? Right? And sometimes it's not a good reason. Sometimes it's like, oh, well, we need a woman on the committee, or we need a person of color on the committee, or you always say yes. I think you like this kind of stuff. Or I think it'll be an opportunity for you, but not really, not really enough information. So why will it be an opportunity for me? What do you think I'll gain out of this? And those questions really help you figure out, is this right for you? Is it right for someone else you know? Is this just a hard no? It sounds horrible once you've learned the different components of what that you've been asked to do. And the last little point I have, there's research often suggests that women ask less often than men. So make sure you ask those tough questions to really figure out if this is a no or no or yes. And then the last piece is assert, right? You have to assert your yes or your no. You want a confident yes, and you want an assertive no. Your analysis will give you confidence in whether you want to say yes or no to it. You also want to say no in a way, but you can use what I call a generative no, that leaves room for further understanding and negotiation, and leaves the door open. This doesn't sound right for me right now. The person can come back and say, oh, this is why I think this is great for you. And then you can have a back and forth to figure out if you'd like to do that. Not only are effective negotiators and problem solvers confident, but there's also ways. I know a lot of well, 20% of you said you're concerned about being disliked or having backlash. There's some research by Hannah Bose Riley that suggests that when you are assertive in a nonverbal way, you receive less backlash. So that means you're not using aggressive words, but you're using a firm tone of voice. You're you're kind of standing and taking up a lot of room in the space you're in. Your body language is confident. And so that's another way to show confidence, right? If your voice is going up in the end, or you're hesitating when you talk, that's going to be received very differently. Okay, so now we're going to do something where we are going to, it's going to be an exercise where we are going to imagine this. So imagine you are arm wrestling with your one of your good friends, or your good colleague, can even be your boss. So arm wrestling is when you hold the other person's hand just as they are in the picture, and your goal is to get the back of the other person's hand level with the table. So this is kind of a guess of how strong you are. So you're going to be doing this for 10 seconds with the person you have in mind. You can put their initials in the chat if you want. Who is it? Is it your boss? Is it your sister? Is it your is it your brother? Is it your best friend? Is it your drinking buddy? Okay, so you're getting ready to arm wrestle, and you're going to see how many points you can get. So when you put your hand, when you get their hand down, you get a point. If they get your hand down, they get a point. So who will win, you or the other person? Let me look, see if I can look at the chat. Who is going to win? Let me see if I can see. Lindsay, can you see who people think is going to win?
Let's put it in the chat yet. So go ahead and put it in.
Okay, put it in. I want to know if you think you'll win or you'll think they'll win. Okay. So keep in mind who's gonna, I think some people might be putting in the Q&A area. Let me look at that, see who's gonna win. Oh, the chat is disabled, Lindsay. So we will get that fixed. Thank you everyone for putting that in the Q&A so we can know that, because we have another chat question later on. Lindsay, can you let us know when that is fixed?
Yep, I just fixed it. Anybody should be able to use the chat now.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. Okay. I would win. I think I would win. I would win. Joseph says I would win. Jane says me. Kaylee says I would win. Okay. So, so I have a lot of competitive people on this on this webinar. They think they would win. Okay. So let's go to the next slide and see. Wouldn't play, no arm strength, says Janelle. Barbara would win. Pam said, I will win because I'm picking a skinny person. Janelle says, I'd say no. Fabulous. So let's go to the next slide. And I have something interesting to think about. Okay. What if arm wrestling is just like negotiation? It is an illusory conflict. If I said you're going to get a point when you get the other person's hand down, and they get a point when you get their hand down, if you went like this, let's see if I can get this in the camera. If you just went like this for the 10 seconds, you would both get the most points. Both of you would win. And so many times negotiation is like that, right? You're trying to win, you're trying to say no, or they're trying to get you to say yes, but it may not be a conflict. May be another way to solve the problem. So when we're negotiating when we're negotiating using the negotiators know, what we're really looking for is win-win agreements. We want to stay curious. We want to ask those questions and figure out how can we expand the pie. Oops. Let's go back. Okay, how can we expand the pie? Sorry about that. Okay, so that's really what we're going to. When I say negotiate, I'm not saying try to win, try to smash the other person into the ground. I'm saying try to figure out how can we solve the problem in a way that meets both people's needs and maybe even expands the pie, maybe even comes up with a better solution to the problem that person is facing. Okay, so we're down to the last of the 4 components, and this is the power of the wise no. So you have a positive no mindset. Remember, in the end, I'm going to ask you one thing you can do today or this week differently than you're doing it now. So I'm really excited about that. So the last part is the power of the wise no. So how can we make sure that we're using no in the way we need to be, in the way that's aligns with our goals, our values, and our passions? And what that really means is that we need to be thinking about when people are asking us to do things, we need to be able to take a pause and remember, what are our goals, values, and passions? Is this something that really sounds like fun? But if we think about it, it's taking us away from our goal of finishing a project early, or attending an event for a friend, or being there to take a elder relative to a doctor's appointment. There may be something else that we need to do with that time. So if you have a moment, put in the chat, what is a goal that you have that sometimes when you're saying yes to other things, it's taking you away from? What is it? What do you want to have primary in your mind when people are asking you, can you be on this panel? Can you create this event? And when I think about that, one of the things you do to keep my health and time with my family, fabulous, Alyssa, really important, and something that is probably the first thing to go when we start saying yes to too many things, is doing a yes audit. I love to learn new skills or create procedures and documents. Exactly. These are things that we should want to keep top of mind when we're asked to do things. Does this align with what we want to do? And what I would recommend that everyone does is do a yes audit. And let me talk about a little bit about what a yes audit is. So what you're going to do is ask yourself, you're going to reflect on the tasks and opportunities you said yes to, and sometimes you volunteer to do things, right? You don't really have to be the one to do it. And let me give you an example of that. I got an email and it asked, oh, who can do X and Y? And that was right in my kind of the things that I do. I'd be really good at it. I could do this very easily. And what I did is I just waited to answer. It came in at night and I just waited till the morning to answer. In the morning, I was going to say, yes, I'll do it. By the time the morning came, someone else had volunteered to do it. I was like, oh my goodness, this is fabulous. And it's a person that then I knew, oh, this person really probably has been waiting for this opportunity, but I was always jumping in and they never had the chance to do this. And I was so happy. I was happy to have the time for myself, but I was also so happy that this other person had this opportunity. And I hadn't realized that I was that my saying yes actually may have prevented someone from learning a new skill and being in front of a network that they really wanted to be in front of. So
Hey,
we have
that's
to be careful when we volunteer. Okay,
As
so
we're close
this,
on time.
uh,
So I want to leave some time for like questions and
okay,
I
so
do
I will just take one more minute to wrap this up because this is really the last thing. Um, when I say do a yes audit, take those things you say yes to and put them in one of the quadrants. So the horizontal is, are you de-energized? Is the activity de-energizing or energizing? And up and down the vertical line axis is, do you revel in it? This is wonderful. Or do you resent and regret having done that? And so when you put things in those quadrants, you will see you have a heck yes box. You love to do it and it's energizing. You also have a heck no box. It's de-energizing and you resent or regret it. So get those no's together. But what about the other two boxes, right? It's kind of good, kind of bad. These are the boxes I suggest that you negotiate, right? So you ask questions and you negotiate so you figure out whether it is a heck yes or a heck no. So I was asked to be on a panel. I mentioned this before, and it turned this 45-minute panel. When I asked some questions, it turned out to be 5 hours. I'm like, I didn't have 5 hours that month, or that the 2 weeks that I was going to be doing. So I could easily say no and recommend someone else. So it wasn't, it made it easier. So what you want to do in those negotiate files, you want to either change the ask so that it's a heck yes, or you want to get enough information so it's a heck no, and that you're not caught in all these things that are kind of you're ambivalent about. They're half good, half bad. Okay. So in the chat, please put your takeaways or aha moments. In the Q&A box, put any questions you have. And I would love to hear one thing that you can do today or this week differently than you've been doing. And with that, thank you so much for being here. Here is my contact. If you want the free download, the QR codes on one side and my LinkedIn is on the other. So if you don't get a chance to ask your question today, please just connect with me on LinkedIn and ask your question there. I would love to respond to every single question. Back to you, Lindsay.
I think we have time for just one question. So this one came through the Q&A. Do you have any advice on how to avoid non-promotable tasks / positions as a recent graduate or a new hire?
That is a very good question. So one of the things that's important is that your kind of organization starts to recognize that these are non-promotable. If it's something like, they always ask the new grad to order lunch at a meeting or take the notes. One of the things that you can ask for is, can this just be a rotating task? So everybody gets a chance to do it. And so that way, yeah, you do it, but it's fairly distributed. So I think a lot of times organizations, this just is the way it's always been done, and they don't realize the burden it's placing on certain people. The other thing you can do is shift that task to be promotable. You go to your boss or your supervisor and say, you've asked me to do these 4 things. I think I have time with my other work to do 2 of them. Which 2 are most important? Because sometimes you're being asked to do things that if the boss has to decide, they're like, oh, clearly do 1 and 2, do 1 and 3, 2 and 4 are not important. Just I'll ask somebody else to do it. But make it part of the conversation so that the boss knows what you're being asked to do. Because sometimes you're being asked to do things by all different people. Each team member is asking you to do something. Your boss is asking you to do something. They don't know the other person's asking you. And so you're overwhelmed, but when you have the conversation, they're like, oh no, I don't want you doing this or that. This is where I want you to focus.
Thanks, Michelle, and thanks for all those great questions. Like Michelle said, you can get back in touch with her through email or LinkedIn, but I want to thank Michelle and everyone for joining me in today's webinar. Don't miss our upcoming Tibby Women Summit webinar on March 19th at 12 p.m., covering smart money for smart women, financial strategies for life stages. Your feedback is valuable, so please take a moment to complete the survey at the end. On behalf of the Tibby College of Business, thank you for joining us today. And as always, go Hawks.
Go Hawks. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.